Cat people. Will you remember it for a long time, Sam? Will this stay with you?
That's
this
a
film?
good point.
Because I think the impression that it has.
No, that's fine. You answer your own question.
No, I'm just saying, like, that's part of my question. I was carrying on. So,
right.
Like, will this stay with you? Like, what kind of impression has this left on you?
Across the centuries comes this exciting story of a modern girl cursed by an ancient legend. The legend of the cat people. Women whose kiss means death, whose love turns them into vicious, snarling beasts of prey.
Cat People.
Cat People. So Cat People is basically a 1942 film from the director Jacques Tourneur. Tourneur, I think, has how you pronounce it. He was born in France and then he moved to America when he was around 10.
Really good research.
Thank you very much. This is a black and white film. Obviously, it was released in the 40s. It was released during the war, which I found is obviously quite interesting.
Yeah. It's American, so I guess they weren't that involved at that point.
Well, they were pretty involved.
Yeah.
But I guess.
But they had time to make a movie.
I guess you gotta have fun too.
Yeah.
Even during a war.
Yeah.
But themes of war could be present in the film.
Yes.
Undertows.
A foreign invader.
Exactly.
Oh.
We'll unpack that later. But let's just go tell them what basic plot.
Yeah.
I mean, this is going to involve spoilers, so just be aware of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's been out for, what, 80 years.
So what would you describe the genre of this film, Sam?
Well, on paper, it says psychological horror or like
supernatural
horror. I don't know. In our standards, in modern standards, I wouldn't say horror.
Yeah, but I think that's knowing what we know now. Like at the time, it probably was quite a groundbreaking horror.
Yeah, it's probably quite scary, especially you know, the kind of monster creeping around. That would have been quite spooky, but for us, it was.
Yeah, we were. Yeah, absolutely. Like a supernatural horror today, we would probably think ghosts and scary things,
Annabelle and Sinister,
lots of jump scares and stuff like that. And it did feel quite tame compared to modern day supernatural horrors, I think. But
yeah,
it was still definitely unnerving at times.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say I was scared, but I would say I was definitely like unnerved.
Unnerved.
Is that a word?
Unnerved.
I wouldn't say I was scared, but I would say I was definitely unnerved.
Yeah.
Apparently I'm pronouncing that wrong.
But yeah, so plot-wise, I think we start with Irina.
Mm-hmm. She's a Serbian immigrant who meets Oliver.
Yeah.
Oliver Reed.
Oliver Reed?
Yes. That's his name. The name of the character.
Right.
Yeah, he's
a lyric in Wombats, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the guy. Oliver Reed was also an actor who played Bill Sykes in Oliver.
Where are you getting this information?
So, I don't know. Anyway, but that's aside from the point. It's a different Oliver Reed. Okay, this is buried in the back of my mind somewhere.
Nice. Well, so she meets him at a zoo where she's illustrating. She's doing some drawings of the panther. He
likes that. Yeah. They start chatting. Things move very quickly.
Very quickly.
They sort of get to know each other. They start dating, and then before you know it, they're getting married.
Yeah. It obviously takes place over a period of time.
Yes.
It's not overly clear, though, is it?
It's not overly clear how much time has passed in between each scene, which is why we were quite surprised when suddenly they were getting married, because we were like, oh, you know.
Yeah,
it's not so clear.
There weren't many indicators that we were doing a montage. But then I suppose they've only got 70 minutes to play with. Yeah,
that's a fun fact. So. It's only about 70 minutes, so it's a very quick watch if you want to give it a go. Irina is obsessed with the idea of her sort of like hometown, this fable in her hometown where the women, if they became intimate with men, they would turn into these cats, essentially, these big cats, and they would kill the man or whoever was trying to be intimate with them. So she's so obsessed with this idea that she doesn't want to kiss her husband or be intimate with him or anyone in any way, because for the fear that she might kill him.
Yeah, but he's very patient. He's very kind. He's like, no, darling, it's fine. I wait the whole world for you.
But everyone's got a limit, haven't they? And
Yeah.
of course, she finds his.
In comes his co-worker, Alice.
Ooh, Alice is a snack, and he thinks so too.
Yeah.
So yeah, he decides to, he starts to sort of, I'd say, he doesn't cheat on Irina, but he does emotionally cheat, I think.
They form quite a strong bond.
Yeah.
I think they were friends anyway, but they get closer and closer. They have a few scenes.
Yeah, Alice reveals that she's into him.
I love you, Oliver.
I love you. I've always loved you. I really love you.
Transatlantic accent.
It's so fun.
So here for that.
So fun to listen to.
Like almost every line you could chop out and turn it into like a little snippet of wonder.
Yeah. And then basically Irina gets annoyed at the fact, obviously, that these two are getting closer, kind of leaving her out a little bit, and we start to see more of her almost like descending into this cat person. She starts to lose her memory during spells.
Yeah, she crank calls Alice at work. Hello? Yeah. Hello, who's that?
And she doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
And she sort of follows Alice. We think maybe like as a cat, Alice hears some growling. And then actually there's a scene where Alice is in the swimming pool which is really quite tense.
Probably quite raunchy as well for that.
Yeah, we were thinking that.
Alice in a bathing suit.
In a one piece.
Yeah.
Very sort of like 40s, 50s style bathing costume, and she gets in the water because she hears this big cat essentially, which is Alice skulking around in the shadows, and it's all very tense, and you think that she's gonna actually kill her.
I think that's the first point in the film as well, maybe before, because Irina is following Alice home at one point.
Yeah.
And that's when you start to see that Irina does actually transform into a panther.
Yeah, because we think maybe she's just a bit mad or something like that before that, don't we?
Yeah, whereas that point you actually know, she's telling the truth. She's actually transformer.
Yeah. Oh, and so the husband sends Irina to a psychiatrist, who tries to get her over this belief that she's going to turn into a cat if they kiss. She basically stops going, lies to her husband. The husband and Alice decide they want to make a thing of it, and that's when she really loses the plot, doesn't she? And she
does.
She actually, well, do you want to tell them?
What?
At the end. Well, Dr. Judd, who's her psychiatrist.
Oh yeah. He's quite a character.
Yeah.
You do actually find out that he's a bit of a perv. He like kisses people's hands, which must be crazy.
How dare he? Yeah, well, he tries it on with her before, doesn't he?
Yeah.
She makes it quite clear that she doesn't want to kiss him. But later on in the film, at the end, he is waiting for Irina in her apartment.
Creepy.
To do some things, I think. He wants to lay it on her.
Yeah.
Which he does.
And she...
To his own demise.
To his own peril. She kind of allows the whole thing because she's like... there's a little look in her face, like over the shoulder, while he's kissing her, and she's kind of like...
Yeah. She knows what's going to happen. And she's here for it because it's, he's basically a predator himself.
Yeah.
So the predator
becomes
the prey.
So he's dead. Oliver and Alice then go and run to the zoo because they're like, she must be there. By this point, Irina has unlocked the panther cage, let that out.
It's jumped onto her, so basically like knocked her flying. She's on the floor,
dead. Possibly
dead. We don't know for sure, but we can assume she's dead.
Yep.
The panther jumps over the zoo gates, gets hit by a car.
What?
So the panther's dead.
And there's a very interesting scene when you do see that the police car, because I think it was a police car that hit the panther. It kind of looks like it's a man or a person underneath the car.
You said that, but I wasn't too sure on that.
I don't know if like the panther that was in the zoo was actually a person, and then you cut to Oliver and Alice. They've just discovered Irina
on the floor, potentially dead. She looks quite panther-like where she's lying. Sam, you thought she actually was a panther.
I think it was a little bit of a swap.
I don't know. I don't know if that's just overcomplicating it, but
because the final line in the scene, Oliver says, "She never lied to us."
yeah,
Doesn't he? So I think she's a panther.
Oh, that's true, actually. So that would suggest that she is a panther on the floor.
Yeah, but I don't know if this is like typical of that kind of film of that era. It's all very like left unsaid.
Yeah,
and like, you know, it's in the inference.
yes, absolutely. Well, I really enjoyed the characters.
So you want to talk about the characters? We'll talk about the characters.
Yeah, we can talk about the characters.
Yeah, good segue.
Yeah, I thought Oliver was. Yeah, he had obviously quite an interesting arc. He started off as a really nice like guy, like butter wouldn't melt, so patient and understanding of Irina's wants and needs, or in this case, not wants. His sort of arc, I suppose, like yeah, he got fed up essentially, and he didn't like being lied to. You know, not many of us do.
No.
And I think he actually was on a bit of a journey to discover what love was, because he said that he was like enthralled by Irina.
Yeah,
she almost had a spell on him.
Yeah, like fixated. One of his lines was like, "Oh, when she comes in the room, I need to touch her," or like, "I want to be near her when I see her." But that not necessarily love. It's more like a fixation.
Yeah, like an obsession. So I think he kind of learnt throughout the movie actually like what love actually was, because love actually was staring him right in the face with the character of Alice.
Yeah, Alice said some
friend.
nice things. She was like, "It's just me and you,
just hanging out
against the world," or something.
Yeah, it was quite poignant what she said. I wish I remembered it.
Yeah,
it was basically along the lines of love is just me and you hanging out forever.
Yeah.
Alice is a strong character throughout. She supports Irina and Oliver in their relationship early on.
Yeah.
Because remember when they're at their wedding and that guy tries to throw some shade, and she's like, "No, they're fine."
Yeah, she's a good pal.
She's a good pal. And then it becomes apparent that she's in love with Oliver. Obviously, she reveals that about halfway through the film.
Yeah.
Some might say that's, he's a married man. She's a bit cheeky to do so. But, the heart wants what it wants.
It's true. I mean, yeah, he was obviously telling her that they were on the rocks.
Yeah.
Maybe that was Alice's opportunity.
Yeah, because he actually said that he was unhappy. And that she started crying because the thought of him being unhappy made her very unhappy. She had a very strong emotional response to that. So
she loved him.
Because she loved him.
Yeah.
And who can stop love?
Yeah. So moving on to Irina.
Oh, yes. Our main character, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, you could say that.
Well, I would say that.
I think towards the end, Oliver becomes the protagonist and she becomes the antagonist.
Yeah, I suppose so, because she's kind of a mystery. She's an enigma, this Alice. She's obviously arrived from Serbia. She's got this slight little twinge in her accent. And she's somewhat of a mystery. We don't really understand her.
Yeah.
Why she's not being intimate with her new husband.
Yeah, I think you definitely feel for the character of Irina because she is unhappy, and she says that a few times, and she's got this kind of like, she can't let herself fall completely in love with Oliver because she's scared. Yeah. So she's got a lot of pain.
A lot of fear, just like rooting in these stories from her family, where she really truly believes that she will actually like become a cat person, like in the stories of her family.
Yeah,
so she's got a lot of fear.
Yeah, she's less logical and more spiritual than the rest of the characters as well. There's a good bit where she's talking to the psychiatrist in the zoo, and she says, "Oh, you're trying to heal my. When you say mind, you mean brain. When I say mind, I mean soul."
Oh.
Yeah, so she's talking about her soul, and she's more spiritual, and then obviously the psychiatrist is more logical.
Yes, I can't remember her saying that. I was obviously eating chocolate at the time.
Yeah, you were clearly not as enthralled as me.
Yeah, but she goes on. Obviously, she goes on a journey because she's afraid of herself, isn't she? She's as well, and I think she does fear going mad.
Yeah,
because she's having these moments of sort of blanking out, and she doesn't really know what's going on.
Yeah.
So again, could be a reflection of like society at the time, and there was a real stigma behind like madness and going mad, and essentially like how the brain works. And a lot of women were in fear of being carted off to the insane asylum by their husbands.
Yeah.
just so they could marry someone new.
Exactly.
It was genuinely a thing. So, yeah. Good.
In terms of the acting, Rebecca, what did you think?
The acting. Oh, well, it was very of its time, Sam, wasn't it? Very of its time.
Very dramatic. Every line was like the most important line in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. But then I believed it at the same time. Like, you watch some stuff today and you're like, oh, I can tell you're just a person reading a script and it's just like hard to watch. But this was like of its time, and I was into it.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've said this, but it was better than some of the films that are out now that are just churned out, like Argyle.
Cash cows.
Yeah. A lot of films that...
Wow, name drop.
I know. We've gone to see, we've actually left, or like we put it on the TV and we've stopped it. Like, there's a lot of crap on Netflix.
Yeah. Whereas
this actually stands up, and I think of that time, it has to be good because, you know, film's expensive.
That's very true.
In the background doing this.
Not everything is going to get made, whereas now it seems that everything and anything is getting made.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a lot harder to edit. They're actually cutting film.
Yeah.
So the performances need to be...
Yeah. And I do think that they were good performances all round. Very believable.
Yeah.
Yeah, love that.
Was into that.
You know, they were quite... Particularly for me, I liked Alice's scene when she was in the swimming pool. I really believed her fear there. And she was so careful to get out of the pool when Irina was on the side. Like, it was unspoken, but she was afraid of her.
Yeah, and in that scene as well, I really liked Irina. She was very, like, threatening and sinister. And she was like gaslighting Alice. Because she was like, oh, what's wrong, Alice?
What are you so afraid of, Alice?
Yeah, so she going from right at the beginning of the film where she's that innocent character to towards the end her being... So she's playing both, which was really nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and obviously, speaking of colour, there was a real sort of... obviously, it was black...
Speaking of colour?
Oh, no, but I wanted to just bring in... Obviously, it was a black and white film, but what we noticed was the real... like contrast in the colour, which I suppose we thought might be because it was a black and white film.
Yeah, the two different... I'll try that again. The stark differences between the shadows and the light were really
quite dramatic.
Really dramatic.
Like some examples being, well, one example being that comes to mind was when she went to the psychiatrist office and she was being hypnotised and there was like a spotlight on her face almost.
Yeah, and you don't get those true blacks in movies now, where it's like it is black, whereas this is like, I suppose because it's black and white, they didn't have colour to play with. They needed to generate those kind of defining features and stuff.
But I think that the use of colour was like a real sort of just to show the struggle between good and evil.
So good. Yeah, that dichotomy.
Yeah, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Essentially, the whole film was about her potentially being evil, being bad, and this is that scene in particular was like the psychiatrist trying to show her the light, trying to bring out that goodness in her, which actually was, you know, unfortunately the darkness prevailed.
Yeah, absolutely. Another similar scene where they play with light quite a bit, which is when Oliver first went back to Irina's for tea. And he said that line where he was like,
you come for tea, you don't stay for dinner. A boy comes for tea, doesn't stay for dinner. Or something like that.
So good.
That was good.
But yeah, in that scene, she's got the light off, the lamp off, and she's just looking across at the zoo, I think, and it's really dark in this scene. But then she comes over and turns the light on, and it obviously brightens up the picture. You see Oliver's there as well. And then I think she says, I quite like the dark.
The dark is playful.
Yeah, it's colourful. It's comforting.
Yeah, something like that. I think she says playful.
Yeah.
The dark is kind or something.
Yeah, and that's obviously, again, her struggle with light and dark.
Yeah.
So.
What else did we want to talk about? I wanted to just bring up the way they did the panther stuff. When she turned into a panther, because actually it was all very subtly done. Like, I feel like now in the cinema you would see that transformation, obviously because of special effects and stuff, maybe, you would see that transformation, you would see her turn into a panther, and you'd see her doing these things. But we never actually saw her transition into a panther properly. So it's kind of just alluded to. So it's there still is that question in your mind, is it just in her mind? Because you don't actually see it. And even when Alice and Oliver are in the office and they get attacked by a panther, it's kind of just alluded to. And it's kind of more just like the sounds and the shadows.
Yeah, even when the doctor gets killed at the end, that's all just shadows.
So it could just be Alice. No, it's not Alice. It could just be Irina. Like,
exactly.
God, man.
It was interesting that you were saying about special effects and stuff, because in my mind, I think I was kind of waiting to see like the transformation or the action, which is what we've come to expect, because they can show that now, whereas they couldn't then. So it's really clever the way they did that.
Yeah, definitely.
Because they're limited.
Yeah. And I always think with horrors, like, it's almost like the kind of suspense is ruined when you see the monster.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're like, oh, that's what I've been afraid of the whole time? That's not scary.
Definitely, because the scariest thing is your imagination and like what you think it could be.
So I do like how they didn't show the monster in many ways.
Yeah. Is it in The Thing where you don't see the thing?
Don't see the thing?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
In the film The Thing.
Oh.
I don't think you see the thing, right?
I can't remember.
Yeah. But
good point.
I think that's the difference between like terror and horror. Terror is like the anticipation and not seeing, whereas horror is more like...
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to bring up something that as a theme which I noticed.
Themes.
When they had the office attack, basically the panther's coming for them, and you think that he's gonna have to kill this panther. Picks up a weapon. In the reflection, we see a cross.
That was so
crucifix.
good.
So there is actually a religious theme in this film, which kind of pops up out of nowhere. I thought
it was genuinely like power of Christ
compels you,
and then she disappeared.
Yeah, which again suggests that actually it's not sort of real. It's more of a demonic possession. So,
which was interesting. Wasn't it?
Yeah.
But that cross wasn't a cross. It was just shadow play with implement for architecture. But that one little frame, if you pause that frame, that's really nice. That shadow.
Yeah.
With him protecting her, and I suppose it's quite reminiscent of the story she told about King John and his sword
stabbing the big cat.
Yeah, I guess that's the mirroring there.
Yeah.
So
I suppose in terms of like cultural context, I mean, religion was rife. I mean, still is, but like especially so back then.
Yeah, rifer.
Even riferer. So yeah, you can see why they would put that in, and like again, it does mirror well with the struggle between good and evil and light and dark.
Yeah.
And light being God, dark being the devil or demons.
Nice.
But in terms of like horror films, supernatural horror, did you feel like it was original in that sense? Like, did it remind you of any other films? I suppose like the kind of classic werewolf transformation film, sure.
Yeah. I suppose it was more like the films that the pacing's really slow, and it does build that terror. I guess It Follows has that kind of like imminent danger throughout the film. It's coming. Like with this, we knew that she was gonna kiss someone at the end, or like she was capable of murder and stuff.
Yeah.
So I guess,
like, I think we believed it, didn't we? We believed that would happen if she kissed someone.
Yeah.
So there was like that feeling of threat throughout the whole thing.
Maybe sort of the Dracula realm, where it's often whoever the vampire is wants to kiss and make themselves fall for their partner, but they can't because they're going to kill them. That
kind of forbidden love feeling, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is quite a strong theme in a lot of popular films, even Twilight.
Yeah.
That's like, you can't...
I didn't want to say Twilight.
Yeah, you didn't...
It was good Twilight.
Yeah. Was this basically just Twilight from 1942?
Yeah, they copied Twilight.
No. Yeah.
Time machine.
That kind of like, loving me is going to hurt you.
Yeah.
Stay away, but also be mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of forbidden love.
Which is interesting. It's always appealing.
Yeah.
So, liked it. Good film. We were enthralled.
Yeah. I think if you want to watch something where you're going to be, you know, Sam was enthralled. I wouldn't say enthralled, but I was captivated, I suppose.
Captivated.
Oh, ouch.
I think it will definitely stay with me. It will stick in my mind. Is that just because it's one of the only black and white films I've seen? But I think I will remember this one.
Yeah.
And it's nice to think that this was before many, many films that we've seen. So did it inspire a lot of directors? Is this like one of the origin?
Yeah, that's pieces? A very cool thought. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, on that note,
thanks for watching.
We've been Bec and Sam.
And you've been watching us.
Cat people.
Can you say that again? Thanks for watching our review of Cat People. If you want to check it out yourself, we'd love to hear what you think about the movie.
Also, it's currently streaming on BBC iPlayer, not an ad.
You can watch. Oh yeah, say where you can watch it though. That's
yeah. You can currently watch it on BBC iPlayer.
Say it again because I was talking over you.
You can currently watch it on BBC iPlayer. So check that out, and we'll be back soon for more reviews.
See you later. Bye.
Don't let anything distract you from it.